recording.
Hi.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tiffany Stewart. You guys know me as Tiffy Pie. I have two fantastic special guests that I'll let introduce themselves.
I'm Diane Lassonde, and I've been selling on eBay since 1998. And now I sell on all other platforms because of List Perfectly. And that's
And
my
I'm
daughter.
Jen Lassonde, Diane's daughter.
Do you sell it all?
No, I sell knitting patterns, but nothing physical.
Okay, so I'm going to have you really quick, total off topic. So you have a podcast on knitting we talked about right before it started. What's your podcast?
It's called the Down Cellar Studio Podcast. It's an audio podcast, and then there's a YouTube channel of the same name.
Okay, good, because I'm going to go follow that. I don't know how to knit yet, but at least I tell myself I'm going to learn how to do it and then be fantastic. And then I'm going to need your advanced podcast and your advanced YouTube someday.
Beautiful. Happy to help.
And so on that, Tiff, she's Boston Gen 1, and I'm Boston Gen's mom.
Okay.
On Instagram.
On Instagram.
Got it. Okay. I'm going to have to remember that. The good news is it's recorded, so I can go back and find it.
Right.
So for those who know me, originally I had started doing this YouTube journey years ago and then never really did it. It never really took off. And I did because I didn't feel like I had anything to say. And after going to Camp List Perfectly or Camp Listing Party, which I'm glad you brought List Perfectly up because List Perfectly is actually what brought us all together. I was able to really push myself through YouTube because of some of the YouTubers that were there at the conference. And I didn't know what I was going to talk about. And it turned out I've been thinking about writing a book for a really long time since my dad passed last year. And it was going to be, I'm sorry for what I said when I was grieving. And I realized writing a book when you're grieving is really, really hard. So here we are doing it's a video book, I guess. And my very first two guests are Diane and Jen. And so it's really going to be talking about grieving and what that looks like. And part of that grieving process was meeting Diane. So Jen, if you don't mind sharing a little bit about Diane, your mama, and her diagnosis.
Sure. So on December 1st, 2021, we got some really hard news that mom was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer, non-small cell lung cancer. And at that time, before we got all of the tests back and all of that good stuff, we knew the prognosis was not going to be good. This is not something she will ever recover from. And originally, we thought the timeline was going to be pretty short. Thankfully, she was eligible for some gene therapy medication because her lung cancer is a result of a genetic mutation. So they have medicines that can actually help against it, but there's never any, real, surefire timeline, even based on that. Everybody's body reacts differently. So it has worked really well for her. However, in October 2022, we got more bad news that her non-small lung cancer had transformed into small cell lung cancer. And so then we went on a whole chemotherapy journey, which thankfully the chemo also worked well. She's still on the other gene therapy medicine. Of course, there's a million side effects and a lot of, not fun medical, emotional, social things that are impacted because of all of that. But when you look back at where we were December 1st, 2021, and thinking we maybe had a few months to where we are now, nearly September 2023, it's amazing. So that's, the very, very short version of what we've been through in the last couple of years.
And Diane, how are you feeling?
I'm good. I'm very tired, and I think that's the thing that is hard because I feel like I have a veil like in front of me, and it's just like I'm looking through the cloud of life because I feel like I'm just so tired. And sometimes it makes you feel like you're not really participating in something, and you have to like actively focus to like get everything that's happening. But on the outside, no one else would know that but me, So, and I think you've all been to that spot, like when you have not had we were talking, Jen and I, yesterday, because she didn't get enough sleep. And when you feel like you're going to be sick because you're so tired, or it's just like that kind of feeling. So it's not something you can't deal with. But then I have other things that happen. So like my fingers and my toes all get like swelled up and they're really painful. But again, those are things that I can deal with and just keep going, you know? And so there's always some little different thing every day, but I'm here and I'm able to enjoy, you know, my grandkids and my daughter, my son, and their significant others, and all my friends, which I've been so blessed. So, yeah, I think I'm fine.
Oh, the F word. Oh, so anybody who knows me knows it's my favorite. Well, it's my second favorite F word. My first favorite F word is definitely not fine, but it's my word I always use. I'm fine, which
Hmm.
it carries a
It's
lot of
not.
connotation
Right.
with it, right? It means
Yeah.
we're here, but it's not great. Jen, how
Hmm.
are you doing with everything?
I, I think I feel very similarly. I mean, obviously, the early days were incredibly difficult. It's, I haven't lost my mom yet, thankfully, but like it's sort of what feels like a glimpse into what that grieving process is going to be. It just is more real in a way that it isn't when you don't hear that diagnosis, right? But I think after those first few months, and as well as she's been doing, and as much as she's able to do, for me, it's impossible not to just embrace the time that we're getting and to like pack as many fun things as we can all handle into this time and make the most of it, because I know for sure we'll regret it if we don't. Like, yeah, there's days where you just want to sit around and cry and watch a movie and snuggle up with your partner, and that's all you can manage. And there's still a few of those days, but mostly we're just so grateful, and like we all just have so much fun together that when we are together, even for things like, you do some things and you're like, oh, is this the last time we're going to do this thing? And like, before you get there, you start thinking like, oh, is this going to be hard? And then we all just have so much fun. Like, you literally don't remember it till maybe you get in bed that night and you're like, oh, remember I was kind of worried about that thing. And then it was just an awesome day? So it's just kind of the people that we are. I don't think that everyone reacts to these kinds of things the same way. I'm sure that they don't. We're sort of just naturally optimistic, happy people. And I think that probably works well for us.
Well, and I also think you have to be realistic, and it's like we keep getting punches, you know, like we got that diagnosis that my cancer had mutated. 5% of the population that have that happens to. And I'm the lucky one?
Yeah,
Like,
by a
come
lot of
on,
it.
right? Like, what? So, were we angry, mad, at all of the things, right? But what? I don't have anything else I can do.
Yeah.
I'm at the right hospital. I have good doctors. I'm still here. I shouldn't be here. And that's one thing that I do worry about, that because my dad actually coded on me 3 times. And so when he actually died, I didn't believe it. And I'm worried that like we get these good scans and then they're going to, all of a sudden, I'm going to be gone and they're not going to believe it that this happened, you know? And that kind of worries me. But I can't change anything. So we have to keep going and smiling and trying.
Yeah.
That's a big worry. You had asked me when we were talking before we actually started the recording, and you had I think you were alluding to it yesterday when we were texting about it. And I think that you, if I understand correctly, want me to be comfortable sharing about how we met and why it's so impactful that we met. Other
Right.
than you being a freaking rock star inspiration. So almost the exact same timeline, my dad was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. And the timeline is bizarre because it was mere weeks apart. And it was very similar. Um, as soon as the beginning happened, you just knew it was going to be bad. There was no hope in like, oh, well, we can do there's treatments, but it was terminal from the beginning. And explaining that to people is weird because it's explaining like, oh, you're terminal, but oh, we have these things we can do. And yet But the problem was my dad didn't really, so my dad didn't act right. And he chose the opposite approach of life. He chose to be miserable. He chose to feel really bad about himself. His doctor said, my dad smoked, and my wedding gift 13 years ago, he promised me he'd quit smoking, and he never quit smoking. And he promised, and he promised, and he promised. And I said, it's going to kill you someday. And I think he always knew it would, but I think we thought it was more of like, it'll be when you're 80, not when you're 63. And the way that he chose to live his last year, so he was given 2 to 10 years, but there were some ramifications to that. He needed to quit smoking. He needed to eat right. He needed to exercise. And he just chose to do none of those things. He chose to sit. And this is like really hard to say. He just kind of chose to like ruin our lives for a year. And I flew out from California to Florida every single month. And I was there for him. And I sat with him. And my dad and I had a difficult relationship as adults, period, because my dad was a difficult person in the sense that he wasn't the happy, optimistic person. And so when I was introduced to the idea of Diane, and then knowing that Jen was going to be there before Diane spoke at camp listening party, I had talked to both of them, and I just said that the gift, Diane, that you're giving your family, and the gift that you're giving Jen and your grandkids and your son, is that you're giving them the opportunity to live with you and to do that experience. And I watched my dad die for a year. So he didn't make it to even the second year because he chose not to do those things. And there was a lot of fighting in the beginning. The first few months was me arguing with him and fighting with him and trying to get him to act the way that the doctors wanted him to. And then eventually you just give up. And I started grieving my dad within a few months of his diagnosis. And even though he was alive, I watched him die. So I just actively grieved for the first year, and I thought I was ready. And then he actually passed. And then apparently there's this whole other mountain of grief that I didn't know was coming. And so just the gift that you're giving to your family, you had shared with me your bucket list with a twist. And if you guys would talk a little bit about that, that would be really awesome for me.
Well, everyone kept saying to me, what's your bucket list? What do you want to do? Where you want to go? And I'm like, I honestly don't have one. My feeling is in my life, I've already done all the wonderful things that I wanted to do. I've flown over the Grand Canyon in a helicopter because my husband, I wanted to give that to him as a gift one time. We've been on cruises. I love sitting in my backyard. I'm not like the person that needs to have like all these things. So I decided that I would give my bucket list items away to anyone who wanted one. And then it just became a thing. And so then when I went to the doctors, we told them, and they actually named it. One of my nurses came running up to me when I was in chemo, and she goes, we have a name, bucket list with a twist. I'm like, okay. Well, we've had my granddaughter Riley had she wanted a all girls sleepover. So we had that, and she had games and food. And my granddaughter Millie wanted to go horseback riding in the snow. So that was a little challenging, but we we did it. We got walked around a whatever you call it, a corral, but we still did it. We went to Nantucket for an ice cream. We went to Block Island with Katie and Vicky and Trish. I've gone to Ohio to see Julie Brown. I've been to Phoenix. So everywhere is because of someone else's wish. So, Jen probably could add more.
Well, no, it's obviously so fun and so special, but what's really cool about it too is that people get to think of things that would be special or that will bring back memories and things like that. So like, I still have friends that haven't done theirs yet, but they were thinking about like stuff we did with mom when we were kids. And like, when we were young, she would like blast the music and do dancing car. And like, when there's no one on the road, be like a crazy person and move the car around. Like, but that's stuff that you remember from when you're 12. And they're like, maybe she'll do dancing car with us. Right. So like, it doesn't have to be a trip.
Yeah.
But
we did that with Ayla and Riley the other day. So that was, yeah.
Yeah. But like, you get to like relive those memories and have that special time together. And, you know, I've been on a lot of the bucket list with the twist things. I'm often the photographer that goes along for the ride. But for some people, like that will be like the very special thing that they'll make sure that they get to do with her, which is cool.
Well, I feel like I don't know what memory you're going to miss about me.
Yep.
And what thing that you didn't get to do because I'm not going to be here later. And so how can I pick that? I can't. So I have my grammar school girlfriend she's my very first girlfriend. She's coming this weekend to my house, which we call Lassonde Pool Pub or Lassonde Hotel, whichever you would like. You're all welcome. And she wants a Lassonde Pool Pub party. And so we're going to put on a Lassonde Pool Pub party. So it'll just be fun.
And that's what's really cool. That's whatever memory matters to you. And I think the thing that I shared with you the most about with my dad was it was just, I know it was his cancer and I know it was his life, but he made it so much about him that there was no room for the rest of us. And so there are no memories that I have that are good for the last year. I have just memories of fighting. And so my dad's favorite place in the world was CVS. And that's like the weirdest thing ever, right? Because like whose favorite place is CVS? And I knew my dad had a really very short period of time. I'm an only child, so I had to do all. And my mom, could she have done it on her own? Yeah, but she was obviously having a hard time. Her partner of 40 plus years was dying, and she's also angry too, right? So I fly out there because I know I got to do all the hard work. I got to call hospice, and hospice is like you need to call funeral homes, and I'm just like, this is nuts. Okay, I can't even believe I have to do any of this stuff, and it was one of the last times. So he would not pass when I was there. That was what I realized after 11 straight days of sitting there. And meanwhile, my house is just sitting in California. We have 2 days till our moving truck shows up. We're moving to Texas after 35 years in California, and I'm not there. Like I'm not doing anything for my house, and he knows that, and ultimately didn't care, which was also kind of frustrating too, because I was like, I'm missing my life. I miss the build of my house. I miss the entire build of my home. But there was never apologies, right? There was never like, I'm sorry if this is hard for you. How do you feel? Like I never once got asked how I felt. But still, I knew it was like his last time. He was really gonna be able to get up. And what did I do? I took his ass to CVS. It was really hard. And I had to basically carry him, but we went to CVS and he picked some crap out he wanted. And I just remember sitting there, and I remember sitting in the car in the parking lot. I thought, I don't have any memories. Like I do from when I was little and I do from when I was a teenager, but I'm not going to get any of this. And even in that moment, I knew that was going to scar me. And I knew that like this hurricane that is inside of me was never going to ever heal. And like what ultimately ended up taking my dad's life though was actually Hurricane Ian. So Hurricane Ian touched down on my parents' home. Like my parents' home was the eye of the storm, like Fort Myers, Florida. And so my dad was badly injured trying to put a storm shutter up back up after it flew down because it was just unprecedented. And that infection never healed. And that infection is what ended up being the cause of it. So there's a hurricane currently in Florida right now, and it just passed my mom's house. And she's okay. There's some damage, but she's fine. But it's making me realize how traumatic that experience was. And from that moment in September when that hurricane hit last year to now, it just feels like my life's been a hurricane. And the blessing of meeting you and seeing somebody who is, while you're participating, you're so unselfishly giving to those people in your life. And I'm so in awe. And and that was what I told you was I'm so grateful for you because yes, Jen is going to miss you so much, but she's going to look back and it's not going to be a hurricane. It's going to be a bucket list with a twist. And so that's what you're doing and that's what you're giving. And that's why when you offered to do this with me was just so inspiring because even though I didn't know you before June, you're helping me heal. And I'm really grateful for that.
I want to say that you said that you'll never heal. And I don't really want to hear you say that because you can't change what your dad did. You can't change it. Just like I can't change this diagnosis and I can't change the way that I'm doing it. And other people may think that I'm wrong. And it is what it is, right? Like Jen can't change what I've chosen or how I've chosen to do it. So I don't want you to take that into your soul, because that was his choice, not yours.
Right.
And you don't have anything to feel guilty about. You did the daughterly things. You stepped up. You couldn't fix it because he wouldn't let you. That is not your problem. And I'm guessing that he was a lot like that beforehand. And so, you know, you have to come to terms with that you did the best that you could do. And if that is the case, if you feel like you did the best that you could do, you can't change him. You can't change the way he chose to die. He could have just taken pills and killed himself. Like it's up to him what he wanted to do. And I agree with you that he didn't want to die with you there, because my dad did that. Like I said at the beginning, he died on me 3 times and came back. And then when he actually died, I didn't believe it, because no, he always comes back. Like, what are you talking about? So I know he didn't want us to see that again. In my heart, that's what I don't know if I know that. I'm making that shit up. But in my heart, and I think that's what other people would say too, like, you know, you're there by your parents' bedside and you leave to take a shower and they pass away. Like, yeah, you've been there the whole time. But
well, and I think just jumping off from that, like, we can never know what people really think or how they really feel. And so at the end of the day, unless something is like someone has said the words to your face and you're just assuming you know what they were thinking and what they were meaning, you're just making it up. So if you're going to make it up, you might as well make up something good instead of something terrible that you're torturing yourself with. Like, yeah. That's not always easy to do. And it's probably not always your first thought, but that's something that I try to remind myself of. And I guess the other thing that I would say to you, Tiffany, is, you know, your dad's death and all of this is always going to be a part of you. And hopefully as you continue through the grief, it's just a much smaller and smaller part of you. And I think what you're getting from my mom and from us is that building the community, and you get to build your community and you don't have to wait till you have a diagnosis, a terminal diagnosis, to do these things. Like, that's what I'm taking away from it too, is we get to choose. Like, I'm an introvert. I would prefer to be here in my house by myself. Being out with people exhausts me to no end, but I'm always happier for having done it. And so pushing yourself to do the things and be with the people and make those connections fills up more of that part of you. And then I think that makes the other part, the sad grief part, smaller.
And you never really know when the grief is going to hit you either, because I was fine after my dad passed away, and I'm like, oh, I don't know why I'm so fine, but I was fine. And he had been sick for a long time, and I was fine. And then I drove by, guess what? A CVS that honest to God, this is a true story. I drive by every single day to get home. This one day I drive by and I burst into tears, hysterical, crying. And I call my husband, Rick, and he's like, are you in an accident? Are you okay? Do I need to come? What's going on? I go, and I'm heaving. I just drove by where my dad ran over the curb and blew out 2 tires, which he did. He was going home. He ran over the curb and blew 2 tires. Why did I think of it that day? Why did it make me hysterical? I cried for like 2 days. I swear to God, 2 days. And it was at least 8 months after he had passed away. And I had already gotten through Thanksgiving, Christmas, Father's Day, his birthday, and I was fine. And then I went by CVS. and I was not
CBS
fucking
is just really
anymore.
wants to take us out, man.
Yeah.
CBS is just, I think CBS, if they're not going to sponsor this, that's for damn sure.
No, we thought we just needed those long receipts, but it's way deeper than that.
I have to say, Jen, one thing you said really stuck with me, and it's something that it's actually I'm working on as a person, not just through my grief journey, but as like a human being. And the good stuff and like the positive stuff in our life, it's a whisper, right? We hear the like, oh, it's kind of like compliments. If somebody compliments you, it's a whisper, like, oh, you look really beautiful today, or oh, I love your hair. It's like, oh, thank you. But if somebody were to say, like, wow, you look tired, or like, I had an interaction this past week where somebody told me they had been drinking heavily. I don't even know if it's true, but they were like, oh, this person doesn't like you. It was like this screaming, like velociraptor in my head. And for a week, it's all I've been thinking about. Since then, I'll give a shout out to Consignment Chats, to Molly and Libby and Samantha. They did a YouTube show last week and they asked me if they were okay to talk about me and my YouTube thing. And it was a 10-minute portion of their show where they talked this positive, enlightening, like what I brought for them. It was just this whisper. These amazing women are saying these amazing things, but I'm hearing this screaming of these negative, terrible things. And I think that that's sort of what grief is, and what we look back on is it's the small parts are just, and I think that you're living it opposite. I think that you're trying to make the loud parts be the parts that are good. And that's what I think the difference is.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's what I commented to you on your very first video, was that you do a lot of amazing things in a day and you don't enjoy them. You don't have the smile for them, and you don't acknowledge that you had that. Because it does matter. It does matter, all the, like, oh my God, I took a shower. Like that's a little thing. But if you haven't taken a shower for a week, it's like, yeah, you need to take a shower, dude. Like, come on. But you don't give yourself credit for those things. And so, and I think Jen had this she's very accountable. I'm so not accountable. I'm like all over the world, all over the place. But she had us once a week, we did a check-in. And I think it's something that we can talk to you on another time about, but it's really about how to get better, you have to put down, like, on a note, these are the things that you want to do today. These are the things you want to do for the week. These are the things you want to do for the month. And then we used to meet once a week and just chat about them. And there was no consequence, like, well,
you're a terrible person because you didn't check that off. Like, that's not the spirit. And the other thing that we would do as part of it is we would do a to-do list. Like, even if something wasn't on your to-do list, but you did it, give yourself credit for it. Like, you probably, didn't even know that thing was going to come up, but you did it and you dealt with it. Write it down, because it is really powerful to look through at the end of a week and say, whoa, no wonder it felt like a crazy week. I did 375 days. And maybe it's 12 things, but you know what I mean? Not everything is equal, and just seeing it on paper like that is really powerful.
And I think working by yourself, you don't give yourself credit on things like that. So, like, if you're at an outside job, you have all these deadlines, you have to do this and that at a certain point. But when you're at home, working from home, or working from your storage unit, or working from wherever you work from, you don't have that. You could, if someone wants to go out to lunch, you go out to lunch, but you still have to get your stuff done, but you maybe stay up till 2 a.m. to do it. And so, like, there's a whole different thing about being compliant. And so I think then you're less of that. So, but once you start to do it, you will feel so much happier. And it's like, because you will rejoice in those little things that you just, and you know what? Your freaking house starts to look clean, because, like, some of the things on it are a pile of stuff in each spot. And you're like, oh my God, my house looks good. So,
which is really important, because Vicky had mentioned to me something she called it the insurmountable task. So for me, it's washing my hair. I wash my hair every other day. I've washed my hair every other day since I was like 10, and I still do. And it's something that I haven't missed in the year. But as soon as I washed my hair for this. As soon as I wash my hair, as I'm blow drying it, I begin to dread 2 days from now when I'm going to have to wash it again. And she had said it was called the insurmountable task. And that really like stuck into my brain as that's my thing. And my best friend Camille always tells me, she goes, "You showered today. Her and my husband and another friend of mine, they're constantly in this like group chat reminding me, they're like, "Do you see how much you accomplish in a day?" And in my brain, though, I think I feel almost like I'm half of what I used to be. And I think that veil that you kind of talked about, Diane, is for me grief. And I just feel like I'm living through what's that word? That like filter. And it's a filter of how I see everything. And everything I do isn't good enough, right? Everything I do isn't right. And so I think that's kind of the message that you left. You left that on my video and you messaged me and you texted me. That's an exciting sound if you guys heard that, but that's a list perfectly. I just sold something. But
Mhm.
I think that that's where I struggle a lot. And so I think hearing that wisdom and that feedback is so huge for me because I need to do it. I need to do it.
No, it's
I
very difficult to do that. I mean, give yourself credit when you're not used to it, and to enjoy the things that are little. Like, that's you're not used to doing that. You're used to listening to that voice. And I will say, my biggest thing my whole life was that I'm not good enough. And why? Like, that's not how other people see me. And so why can I not see the same thing that they see? And I'm not sure. I think that's just because of the way you were brought up, and you had to struggle for different things, and the same as me. And it's something that's deep inside of me. And when things go bad, I always say, well, it's because I'm not good enough, or it's like I didn't do it right, or it's. And so, I mean, I think everybody does that. So, like, I guess I want to just say that we're not different from each other. Like, you may think that everyone else is perfect and everyone else's life is perfect, but it certainly is not perfect. And if that's what they say, well, okay. But we're all pretty much the same. We all get too little sleep sometimes. We all eat too much sometimes. We're all sad some days. We're all happy some days. So, you just enjoy what you can enjoy when you can enjoy it.
That really hit for me, obviously, with my reaction because like again, I met you 2 months ago and I don't know how you've made this massive impact on my life, but you have because literally people in my life who have no affiliation with reselling or boss or anything or list perfectly are like, "Diane." Because everything bad that happens to me, I have told myself since I was this big, literally this big, that it's my fault. And everything good that I've accomplished, I've always said was like luck or like, oh, I stumbled in, I even said that with, I told Trish that when they asked me to speak at List Perfectly or at Camp List Perfectly, I was like, oh, it's just luck. Like I was at the right place at the right time. I met Snoop Dougie at the right place at the right time. I never ever step back to think, and like all these people have been giving me this feedback and messaging me since then and being like, wow, you did a great job on your panels and you bring so much wisdom and knowledge. And I'm like, no, I just was in the elevator with Doug at Posh Fest and that's how this happened. And I'm really, really bad at that. And so, what you're inspiring me to try to do now is to turn it around at 36, not turn it around with a diagnosis and not turn it around when I'm trying to turn it around now and it's really hard.
Yeah. But you just do it little by little.
Yeah.
You can't change your whole life. Like, I don't know. You can't change your life, your whole life. You can change your minutes. You can change your hours. And those will hopefully lead to more minutes and more hours that you can be happy, you know?
What I try to think about is, what would I tell my friend if they said that? Like, if you told me, oh, I got on this panel because I was in an elevator with somebody, I'd say that's insane. There was somebody else in that elevator that didn't get that invite. They didn't ask me to be up on that stage to talk about it because I don't know anything. You clearly do. And that's what I would say to a friend. And it's so easy to be nice and to be more rational and giving to our friends sometimes than it is to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is far easier. That is definitely true. Well, for some people might just be jerks. I don't know. I think there's,
You're a good friend, so I think that might work a little bit better for you.
I think you have some wisdom, both of you, that you impart into the world, and I'm just really grateful for this. I really want to talk though about something that's very important.
I lost mine.
That's okay.
Oh, wait, I got it.
You are Diane. So I have my card. If you guys would talk about this foundation, and I'm so proud of this hat, and I need to show you guys, my hat is autographed by Diane. So I think it's going to probably go for
mine. You should sell it.
Mine's not, for the record. I got nothing.
Oh, that's me being a reseller. You should sell it.
I'm thinking eBay. It's going to be worth a lot someday. You just tell us about the foundation. Tell us what Fearless Living is. Your shirt, your necklace. You got it all. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I got it all. Well, a while ago, during the pandemic, Jen, again, this is what we do. We try to be uplifting. We picked a word of the year, Jen and I, and my word for the year was fearless. And it didn't mean to bungee jump or something. It meant to fear less, because we were in the house for the pandemic. I never went out because before I was diagnosed with cancer, I have autoimmune disease. I have a form of rheumatoid arthritis that I was not allowed to really be out in big groups or anything. So I was in the house, and now I have to get to go out. And so my word was to fear less and try to go back with other people, go to a grocery store, do anything. Well, then that ended up with my cancer diagnosis. And so we kept the word for the next year to fear less about everything that was going to happen to us. But in that, I had gone to the Boss Reseller Remix, which is in Vegas, put on by Katie Zilverberg, Vicky Zilverberg, and Teresa Cox. And it's at the Blind Center in Nevada. And it's a wonderful place. It's an event space where they raise money to help blind people. But it's also a place that blind people, or people that have vision problems, can go to get meals. They learn to cook. They have a band. The band that plays for our last night party is called the Broken Spectacles. They're amazing. It's so fun, and they're blind. They have singing lessons. They have computer lessons, phone lessons. They have crafts. There's food they can take home. There's a gym. There's everything for them. And so my heart fell in love with them. And when I came home, I walked into my house, and it was Christmas time. And my house is beautiful with beautiful trees and decorations. And I said, even if I brought these people home, they couldn't see it. They aren't able to see the beauty that I get to see. And most of them live under an overpass or are homeless somewhere and live in a car or whatever. And I have all of this, and I need to figure out how to get them a house, because this isn't right. And so the Blind Center is building housing for 100 homes. And so we decided that we would have a scholarship to raise money to give somebody a home, and hopefully a home for the year, but we'll see how it goes. And if we don't have enough money for that, we'll pay part of it. And then the other thing that they need is cell phones. Cell phones are not the same as our cell phone. theirs is at least $100 a month because they can't see it. You can't go like this and know what you're touching. It has to talk to you. It has to do stuff. So we may sponsor some cell phones, but so it's not like a firm, like, yes, we have to pay for their house. We could pay for 2 houses. We could pay for a lot of phones in a house. So it just depends on the need that year. And the Blind Center is going to help us to decide what that need is every year. We're also going to be giving a scholarship to one reseller because I feel like people who are trying to better themselves are the people that I want to help. And all the people that are going to the Blind Center that are blind are trying to better themselves. And all the people that put themselves out to go to these conferences, like the List Perfectly one and Reseller Remix and eBay Opens and all of those things, they're trying to make themselves better. And so we're going to give $1,000 scholarship to one lucky recipient who goes to a conference.
That's so amazing.
Yeah.
I didn't know that part.
And then the hats come in we've done different fundraisers, and we're, always accepting donations for the Fearless Living Fund. But if anybody either shaves their head in solidarity, Mom lost her hair during chemo, so we had a bunch of people that shaved their heads, growing back beautifully. Or you could go the, arguably easier route and donate $250 or more, and you will get one of these hats. And I guess if you're nice like Tiffany and ask, you probably could get it signed.
I did go the easier route. I did go well, I guess it depends on whose angle you're looking at for easier. For me, it was easier. Then again, my insurmountable task is washing my damn hair. It
might have helped. You can get another hat.
At the beginning, the people were shaving their head and they were raising money as they did it. Yeah. But I just said to them, you know what? I love you all, but I would not be shaving my head for any one of you. I will give you money, but no. So we're going to change it. And that's when we decided that $250 is the legal taxable donation that you can put on your tax at the end of the year. So we figured if you wanted to give $250 to them, that would be wonderful. But we would love any donation you would like to give. It doesn't matter. Like I said, a cell phone's $100 a month for them. So whatever, $5, $2 if you want to give. But the other thing that we are also looking for is we want to get yearly contributors, so that it's not something that we really have to do to fundraise. It's just something that you may think that you want to sponsor us every year, and you pledge an amount to sponsor that. And I think you should be fearless and try it, because when you give back to others, you get back way more than you ever gave. So that's my word.
I'm going to put at the bottom of this video, I'm going to get from Jen. I want to get exactly what the right link is, what everything I need, because I think it's mostly through PayPal that you guys are collecting donations currently.
Our website will be set up soon, so we'll give you all the information.
Yes. And we do have a Venmo right now, but they're in the process of getting us like the real official ones. So we're almost there.
Yeah.
It's only taken a year to do it, but
it's a pain in the booty. But once you get the official one, I know people will feel a lot more because there's always somebody out there that's doing something kind of scammy. So with Venmo in particular, I think it'll be a really good. Once you guys get that designation, it'll make it a lot easier. So I'll get that Venmo, PayPal up, the website information. Because it's really important that we're sponsoring this. I also want to find out more because my husband and I made a commitment when we got married that we would always we heard this, I think it was Melinda and Bill Gates, and they'd said they always want to give till it hurts. And I laugh and I always say, I hope it doesn't hurt. I hope we can keep making enough money that we can keep giving, but that's the way we want to live, is we want to give till it hurts. So however we can figure out the way that we can sign up to do that yearly, that's something that I want to contribute to. Because like I said, well, I hope it never has to hurt, because I do still like some, going out to dinner and doing some of the nicer things in life. We would love to sign up and be yearly contributors, because the missions, every part of it, the part of supporting my friend Diane and her family, the part of supporting the Blind Center and those people that really need that housing. And then I personally, that's where I spent a lot of my years in giving back. Was I worked for not worked, I volunteered for domestic violence shelters as well as homeless living communities in the cities where I used to live in California. So this is like a triple for me, like a triple win selfishly. So thanks for picking all the right stuff for me to be able to want to give all my money to.
Well, and I do, like I said to you earlier, that I do believe that everybody's brought into each person's life for a reason. And you may never know what that reason is, but sometimes the reason is very apparent. And so, but I think that making connections in life is the best thing that you can ever do. And so talking in an elevator,
Yeah.
coming up to someone that you don't know and hugging them and crying and saying, you've changed my life and I don't even know you. Like, oh my, but that's bravery and courage, and you have to step out. And that's why, again, this fearless, like you have to step out of your comfort zone. If you don't, you will never be on that panel. You will never take joy in that little thing that you washed your hair and it didn't encompass the next 2 days. Like all of those things. And you don't need to wash your hair but once a week. So we're going to fix that later. But Jen has tips on that.
I'll take all the tips I can
Oh,
get.
for real. Look at her hair.
She's washing my hair.
Yes.
She does have good hair. That's some
It's
good hair.
But and again, the other thing that I think that everyone should do is have a buddy. And if you have a buddy, I have my daughter. We make each other accountable, and there's no guilt and there's no pressure and there's no whatever. And you need someone that will rejoice in your successes. Trish and I, when we first met, her goal was to beat me in sales. And that was and I'm like, okay, go for it. Like I was good with that. I didn't have to change as long as she. So every time we would go out to dinner, she would grab my phone and look at my eBay number. It was fine with me. It was fine. And look at my eBay numbers and look at her numbers. And she'd be like, oh, I'm not there. I'm not there. She finally did it. And it was like, we were like, you would have thought we won $1 million. It was nothing. Like there was no prize. There was like, we were screaming and cheering. And now she's like well beyond me. And it's wonderful. Like, shouldn't you rejoice in your friend's happiness? So get a buddy who will do that for you, who will be happy for you, and who will not just say when you're sad, oh, okay, well, that's fine. No, you need to do this, this, and this. Let's not be sad for the rest of the day. Let's try this. So you need someone to get you out of those behaviors.
Well, I guess that's got to be my goal. I have some good people in my corner. I'm pretty lucky. I have a husband. I have 2 really good friends, and not to mention a whole group of people on the internet that I don't even know that root for me every day, which those people, no one loves you more than a person on the internet you haven't met. So also no one hates you more than the person on the internet you haven't met, but that's a whole nother story. But I promised it was gonna be 15 to 30 minutes. We're at 48 minutes because you had just way too many good things for me to hear. And Jen had way too many good things for me to hear. So I kind of apologize for taking more of your time, but I kind of don't really mean it because it's like the sorry, not sorry thing.
Yeah.
This was pretty great. I do have to drop one thing in because I feel like Katie and Vicky and Teresa would kill me. There are still tickets available for the Boss Reseller Remix in Vegas in October. The dates on the top of my head, I think, are the 16th.
I think so.
But virtual tickets are available still. In-person tickets, there weren't a ton left, but there are still some. So I'll drop that in my little blurb as well. And then of course we have to give our shout out to List Perfectly, who brought us together. List Perfectly is an amazing cross-listing tool. If you're not using it, if Trish had it, think of how much faster she would have beat you, Diane.
True.
It's true. And also, if you go to the Boss Reseller Remix, they have a tour of the Blind Center that you'll be able to go on and see the beautiful. Oh, and I forgot to mention, they have an eBay store. That's what drew me to it, really. And I forgot that whole piece. Oh, well.
And we'll be
Diane
there
promised
in
that she was going
October.
to get me a tour.
I'm sorry.
You promised you were going to get me in a tour. You said it was going to be VIP. It was going to probably be 60 of us, but it was going to be VIP.
Exactly. That's what happened when I went on my private tour. I brought everyone with me.
I feel like we cut you off, Jen.
No, I was just going to say we're going to be there in October at Boss. So hope to see you guys there.
So all three of us are going to be there. We'll probably cry a little bit. We'll hopefully laugh more.
You might get a scholarship too.
Oh, I can't wait to see how that go. Like that, I didn't know about. So that will be more crying, but that'll be good crying. That'll be happy. I want to thank you both. I know you're extremely busy. I know you have a lot going on in both of your lives. I just want to thank you so much for giving me this opportunity and for letting me have this be my first official YouTube interview. And also I'm holding Trish accountable on this. So it's in the universe. She agreed that she was going to be my next guest and that she was going to talk about her grief journey. So Diane, Jen, you heard it here. She said she's going to do it. So now she's got to do it.
Perfect.
She will.
Thank you so much. I love you both and I adore you. And I'm just so grateful for the opportunity to know you.
Thank you for having us.
And